things at a 5-star luxury resort in Thailand that just makes sense. First of all, they wait for you at the airport with a car, and then when they check you in, they bring you a welcome drink and also cold towels that are for your face. Then when you check into your beautiful room, they've got a welcome letter and like a bowl of fruit and a bunch of different snacks. I tried this like shredded coconut egg yolk dessert, and you guys, the room was insane. They literally like decorate the bed to say welcome. They've got a full-size kitchen with like a full-size fridge and a washer dryer, which is perfect because I have so much laundry. And then in the morning, you can go to the buffet or you can order in and have a floating breakfast at your private pool. And all the villas are just a few feet away from their massive main pool, which is so gorgeous. It has a swim-up bar, and of course, if you get bored at the pool, you can also head to the beach. They have like the biggest, fluffiest beach towels I've ever seen. And they also have beach bags if you forgot one, which of course I did. And even though the beach is like a 5-minute walk, you can also call for a golf cart and they'll just drive you there. And it's free to rent surfboards and boogie boards. And when I tell you, this is like the nicest beach I've ever been to, and I'm from Florida. And they also have a whole nother pool by the beach that's like even bigger than the other pool, and I feel like the resort was giving White Lotus vibes. There's like so much greenery everywhere. Oh, also they have a whole schedule with all these free activities. Like I went rock climbing, which just makes me feel like a kid again. It was so much fun. And if you don't want to eat at one of the 3 restaurants on property, you can get amazing Thai food right at the beach and also $5 massages. I never want to leave, and that's all for today. Eating street food for a full day in Turkey. First up, I found this guy selling Turkish pizza. It's called lahmacun, and it's made with minced meat and this really thin, crispy crust. He told me to put the salad inside and then roll it up, and oh my gosh, it was so flavorful, so spicy and meaty and like fresh. And the crust is so light, it's not too filling at all. Like I could eat the whole thing. Then I explored some more and I found this lokma stand. So these are these shiny little fried donuts covered in sugary syrup that like hardens a little bit, so they have the perfect crunch. They were warm and sweet, and they had that amazing deep fried flavor, but they weren't oily at all, like so fluffy. I also found a kumpir stand. So they have all these topping options and you pick what you want and they stuff it all into a baked potato. And I asked the lady to make it how she likes, so she gave me sausage, couscous, this thick yogurt, this really crunchy red cabbage, and some sweet corn. And oh my gosh, the potato is so rich and fluffy and soft and cheesy, like so many flavors. And then on my way back, I found all of these gorgeous pastries. This one is called burek, and it's filled with beef, and it's a little spicy, and oh my gosh, the pastry is so freaking flaky and tender, and it goes so well with that savory, like juicy meat. I also saw this pastry that was just labeled boom, so of course I had to try it. And you guys, it's the same one I tried in the Starbucks in Istanbul. It's full of Nutella, and oh my gosh, it was warm, like so thick and rich and chocolatey. I am obsessed with these. And that's all for today. Eating Halloween fast food items for a full day. I had to start with Krispy Kreme because they have Scooby-Doo donuts, and this Yeti cookies and cream one had like crunchy Oreos on the outside and then this super sugary Oreo filling. It could have had more filling, but that would have made it even sweeter, so I don't know, maybe less is more. And look at Scooby! I am such a sucker for their glazed donuts. They are literally perfection, and this one had so much of that orange cake batter buttercream, which again was just super sweet. And then this Mystery Machine one had chocolate icing and chocolate sprinkles, and it wasn't quite as sweet as the others, and the sprinkles added the perfect crunch. And then for lunch, of course, I had to try Burger King's new spooky ghost pepper item. So this ghost pepper burger had bacon, ghost pepper, cheese, and queso, so it was like super cheesy, and the spice was there. I mean, like for a fast food burger, it was actually hot, which I loved. Like it definitely had more flavor than a normal fast food burger. And the chicken fries are a classic. I'm not sure actually how hot they were because my mouth was like already all spiced up, but I added some buffalo sauce and that gave it the extra little kick it needed. Honestly, delicious. And finally, I walked myself over to Dunkin' to try their spider donut, which was so cute. So it's a little spider donut hole inside of an orange glazed donut, which definitely isn't as fluffy or as soft as Krispy Kreme. And I feel like the munchkin was kind of cinnamony. Maybe my mind is just playing tricks on me. I don't know. And finally, I got the pumpkin spice latte, which was kind of average, I'm not gonna lie, but the whipped cream on top had cinnamon sugar, which was delicious. And that's all for today. My mom decide what I eat for a full day. I flew home for the first time in a few months and I got to spend the whole day with her. She was so excited. She and my dad made fresh squeezed orange juice for breakfast, which is so cute. And then we had a little juggling competition, which I lost, but that's okay. And my parents always like make a whole spread for breakfast. They love breakfast. Also the orange juice was so sweet and so tangy and like delicious. And then look at how long these sweet potato fries were. And eggs are always a debate in our house because I like them a little wet and runny, but everyone else likes them well done. So y'all gotta vote in the comments on which is better. And then she drove me to some doctor's appointments, and she has a rule that you have to get ice cream after you go to the doctor because you deserve it. So we got the Cold Stone Peanut Butter Cup Perfection, and look at how smooth, and with the crunchy, sugary peanut butter cups. Also, my mom has a chocolate addiction just like me. Anyway, then we went home and watched the sunset on the lake, and my dad made homemade hummus because my mom's been begging for it since she got back from the Middle East. She said you gotta add olive oil, toasted pumpkin seeds, and pomegranate seeds, and y'all have to try this. Like, the pomegranates add that sugary pop, and the toasted seeds add the perfect crunch. It's so good. And then we carved pumpkins, and I was wearing a Kiki's Delivery Service sweatshirt, so I had to carve Totoro, of course, and y'all gotta let us know in the comments which pumpkin won the contest. And then yeah, my dad made chocolate muffins for dessert, and that's all for today. Everything I ate at Halloween Horror Nights. I literally flew to Orlando just for this. Like, it's my favorite night of the year, and the food is wild. Like, look at this peanut blutter burger. It's a double smash burger with peanut sauce and raspberry jello, and then jalapeno bacon and cherry peppers. It's like so many flavors and textures. It's like nutty and sweet and spicy and cheesy, and the patties were actually really juicy. Then I tried this bright red Carn Evil dog on a confetti bun. So it had Kool-Aid pickles, bubblegum mustard, and then these super crispy potato sticks, and I thought I would hate it, but I actually kind of loved it. The flavors weren't that overpowering, honestly, and I thought I was gonna love these sour apple funnel fries, but they were just too much. Like, the fries themselves were covered in sour sugar and then topped with this really sugary sweet apple pie filling and sour apple ice cream, and I think it was just a little too tart. But this popcorn chicken in a popcorn bucket was so cute, and it was tossed in this yummy, spicy Nashville hot sauce and then topped with creamy ranch, and it actually had some heat. Like, it was kind of delicious and really crispy. And finally, the Stranger Things Hellfire mini cake was layers of this really moist chocolate cake with mango cayenne filling, which was actually like really sweet and fruity, and it did have a little kick. Super interesting. And then the candied guitar on top was so cute. And then we did every single house but one, and my favorite were the Universal original houses. Like, Stranger Things and Last of Us were okay, but you can't miss Dr. Oddfellow and like The Darkest Deal, and Chucky was really fun too. And yeah, that's all for today. Only eating at Culver's for a full day. You guys, I was so excited for this. So I got their hand battered fried cod that came with this sweet creamy tartar sauce, and it was literally so flaky and crispy. It just like melted in my mouth. And oh my gosh, these onion rings were like super crunchy and really well seasoned. So good with that buttermilk ranch. Like, some of the best onion rings I've ever had. I also tried these Wisconsin cheese curds that were really buttery and of course cheesy. Honestly, they didn't even need ranch. Like, they were super flavorful on their own. And of course, I had to get a concrete. I added Andes mints, brownies, and Oreos, and that vanilla custard is just so thick. It's like such a satisfying texture, and the Andes mints are so crunchy and chocolatey. Anyway, then later I came back for a butter burger with cheese, and apparently their patties are never frozen. It did have a really nice flavor, but I feel like the patty was kind of dry. The bun was nice and soft though, and I love the crunchy onions and pickles. And I heard these crinkle cut fries are so good. They were really warm and salty, and oh my gosh, this Wisconsin cheddar cheese sauce was incredible. It's so sharp and smooth and like rich. I literally could not stop eating it. And finally, I got a pint of custard, and I got this blueberry cheesecake one that again was just so thick and creamy, and the cheesecake chunks were delicious. They added a lot of texture too. Oh, also the blueberries were super sweet, and that's all for today. Only eating donuts for a full day in New York City. I have been dreaming about this donut since I had it like 2 years ago. It has this house-made blackberry jam that is so tart and rich, and the actual donut is covered in vanilla bean glaze, and it's like the fluffiest thing ever. I can't stop eating it. And this is the most chocolatey donut I've had in my life. It's a double chocolate cake donut dipped in chocolate and then filled with chocolate pudding. Like, are you kidding me? And yeah, there's chocolate cake crumbs on top too. And this coffee cake one has coffee in the dough, in the glaze, in the mascarpone filling, like even in the crumbs on top. It screams coffee. It's intense. And of course I had to visit my favorite bakery because their donuts are so fluffy and they come in these cute little cups, so every single inch is covered in sugar. Their flavors are insane too. This was a honey goat cheese and strawberry donut, and look at that river of sugary strawberry. And I think this was my favorite donut of the day. It had this crunchy nutty pistachio cream and pistachio praline that had that distinct kind of like unique marzipan flavor that really balanced out the sweetness so well. And this passion fruit curd one was so tangy and tart, which just goes so well with like the silky smooth cream. And finally, I've heard great things about Donut Pub. They have so many really fun flavors, like a s'mores croissant donut. The chocolate kind of reminded me of Entenmann's, not super rich, and the actual donut wasn't quite as flaky or buttery as I'd hoped. The layers kind of stuck together, and the graham cracker made it a little dry, but once I got to the marshmallow part, it was better. This maple bacon croissant donut was definitely softer and more buttery, but it still wasn't quite the fluffy croissant texture I was looking for, but oh well, that's all for today. Thing I ate at Madison Square Garden. So they had this food event where all the vendors brought out their craziest stuff, like a 1-pound meatball and a 5-pound hot dog. And honestly, this is the best hot dog I've ever had in my life. It was on this super crispy buttered Texas toast style bun and topped with sriracha and cheesesteak and these really crunchy, salty fried onions. And the hot dog was so juicy too. And I just have to get birria tacos if I see them. Okay, like it's a rule. And these were better than some birria tacos I've had at actual Mexican restaurants. Like the tortillas were really crispy and the consomme was salty and a little spicy. And there was so much tender birria and like really melty cheese. And these nachos were hilariously massive. But the shredded chicken guac combo was fire and the chips were really salty and super crispy. And of course I had to try the 1-pound meatball. And I also met Cheat Day Eats. She was so sweet. And oh my gosh, it was delicious. Like a little spicy, kind of bouncy and so much meat. And they were slicing the corned beef right there for these massive Carnegie Deli sandwiches. And when the mustard is this brown, you know it's gonna be strong. And it was intense, like kind of pungent and earthy and really spicy actually. I also tried their huge black and white cookies, which had that soft, fluffy cake-like texture with thick layers of sugary icing and like a hint of lemon too. And finally, a staple at any arena is chicken fingers, and they had a straight up bucket of honey mustard, which again was like so bright and tangy and just super strong. But yeah, that's all for today. Nothing bun cakes for the first time. I keep seeing these adorable little bun cakes on my For You page, and they have so many flavors, like this pumpkin spice one that was so moist, and the pumpkin spice flavor is strong. And this red velvet one had crunchy little chocolate chips, super chocolatey, and so good with the sugary, soft cream cheese frosting. And I also tried the chocolate one, of course, and again, the chocolate chips add so much texture and chocolatey richness, and it's somehow not too sweet, just like really cocoa-y and delicious. But my favorite one, hands down, was the snickerdoodle. Oh my god, it tasted like coffee cake, like cinnamony, really light and fluffy and literally perfection. And this lemon one was super lemony and like bright and a little tangy. Wow, I am in love with these. Y'all literally have to try them. And that's all for today. Trying Mr. Beast burger for the first time. I love Mr. Beast as much as the next person, but I gotta give you my honest review. So I started with the Beast fries to give them the best chance, and they were falling apart so bad they basically turned to mashed potatoes in your mouth like the second you start chewing, just super soggy. But the pickles added a nice crunch, and they also had cheese, mayo, ketchup, and mustard, so like there was at least a lot of flavor. And of course I had to try the Beast burger, which is 2 smash patties with all the toppings on a toasted bun. Now I don't think the bun was toasted. I don't even know if they were really smash patties because they weren't crispy at all and just kind of dry, but again, like at least it had all of the toppings, so there was some flavor. And this is just funny because I ordered a Nashville hot chicken tender sandwich, and I don't even think there was salt on these tenders, like no seasoning, which is kind of confusing. But they did have like a slight crunch, and the chicken is kind of the texture of McDonald's nuggets, so if you like that. And this is called the Carl's Deluxe. It's upside down buns that are supposed to be grilled so they're like crispy and golden brown, but they weren't, so it's just kind of like eating a burger with the buns the wrong way. It was also supposed to have caramelized onions, but it didn't, so it was just super dry. And these were supposed to be freshly baked cookies. I think it's just the marketing, like they look so good online, so I was expecting a lot, but they were really dry and flavorless. And again, I love Mr. Beast, so this was just kind of sad, but that's all for today. Everything I ate at an African food festival. First, I had to try bofrot or puff puff, which are these freaking delicious little balls of fried dough that are covered in sugar sauce, and the outside is super crispy, and then inside it's so warm and fluffy, and it's just deep fried heaven. And then we went to this spot that had so much meat, and I just let the girl fill up a plate with like whatever she recommended, and she gave me this huge tilapia. And she smothered it in kachumbari, which is like this incredibly flavorful mix of tomatoes and onions and peppers, and it's like so tangy and sweet and like really refreshing. I'm actually obsessed with it. And she gave me this spicy like curry sauce for the beef that was so hot. Oh my god, it like attacks your mouth right away. And then I went to this Nigerian spot, and they were trying to convince me that their jollof is the best, and it was really good. It was so sweet actually, and like a little cinnamony. I don't know, but it had this kick at the end too. And these suya wings had like a heat that built over time. It really snuck up on me, like not too spicy at first, but then my lips started to burn. And finally, I tried this African catering company, and I had to get these stewed fried ripe plantains that were so sugary sweet and like so soft, just melt in your mouth. And their seafood mac had so much really tender shrimp, and the sauce had a lot of flavor too, and so much cheese. And of course, I had to try their jollof too, which was so much smokier and a lot spicier, honestly. It was a little softer. They were so different, but they were both so delicious. And that's all for today. Eating all the food from Ratatouille. So it's a movie food experience where you eat the food from the movie while you watch it. There was like 6 different courses and drinks, and the first course was called Remy's Trash Can, and you eat this trash can salad while he's still at the colony eating trash. And then when he mixes the strawberry with the cheese, you eat a little charcuterie board, and it's just so cute to like pretend that you're Remy and you're eating your little cheese. And then when he roasts that cheese mushroom skewer on the chimney and gets struck by lightning, they serve a stuffed mushroom on a sparkler. Adorable. And it was so cheesy and like smoky and lightning-y. And then there's that scene where Remy Remy cook soup for the first time in the restaurant, and we all got these cute little pots and ingredients to make our own soup. And you guys, I'm not even lying, this is some of the best soup I've ever had. It was so cheesy and like with the crunchy breadcrumbs and the freshness from the basil. It was perfectly salty too. And then there's that recipe where Remy adds the special sauce like right before it goes out the door, and it was this super tender, really moist chicken thigh and this like smooth potato puree and this creamy butter sauce on top that added so much richness that went really well with the crunchy green beans. They also serve so many pretty bevs throughout the movie, and of course there's that iconic ratatouille that brings Ego back to his childhood. And I can't say I've ever had ratatouille. I'm not even a big squash fan, but it was pretty fire. Like the sauce was really robust and flavorful, and it was so aromatic too. And finally, we got these cute little vanilla creme brulees for dessert, super crunchy and sugary and like really rich and creamy, and the berries were so juicy. And that's all for today. Only eating Gordon Ramsay's frozen food for a full day. We went all the way to New Jersey for these, and for breakfast I had to start with fish and chips. I air fried them to give them the best chance, and then I added some salt because they looked a little bland. And hey, I mean, the fish was crispy and salty and pretty flaky. The chips had a little crunch too, but they definitely needed some sauce because they were pretty flavorless without it. And then I tried the shepherd's pie, which looked a little goopy, but it was super cheesy and there was a good amount of meat. The mashed potatoes were a little watery and the veggies were a little mushy, but I mean, the meat was decent. And then for lunch, I started with the lemon caper chicken, and honestly, I liked the sauce. It was tangy and lemony, but the chicken was pretty chewy and it was just so salty. The lasagna bolognese was probably my favorite thing all day. It was giving Stouffer's in the best way, like lots of cheese. The meat sauce had a decent amount of flavor and a little sweetness, and the noodles were soft, but not too soft. Next up was the macaroni, which really did have so much cheese. Like at least they're not skimping on the toppings, and I love mac and cheese. It's hard to mess up. It's just so rich, and the noodles weren't too mushy. Did it taste a little plasticky? Yes, but it wasn't bad. And then for dinner, I tried the mushroom risotto in this white wine sauce that looked and smelled a little off to me. But I mean, if you like mushrooms, like it's kind of like rice cooked in marsala sauce, but wow, was it salty. And finally, this slow roasted beef cooked in a red wine sauce, and I had high hopes. Like there was so much beef, but my goodness, it was chewy, just like really fatty, and again, so salty. And yeah, thankfully, that's all for today. Fate decide what I eat for a full day. So I decided to blindfold myself and scroll through restaurants and randomly pick one, and then randomly scroll through and order something. And literally for breakfast, I picked a $50 tender meal from KFC. And after tax and tip, it was almost $70, but it was so much food. And they gave me a big bowl of mashed potatoes and gravy, which is like addictively salty and smooth and fluffy. And their mac and cheese is a little plasticky, I'm not gonna lie, but it's still mac and cheese. Like it's still delicious. Also, I ordered 6 different sauces and they forgot them all. And the fries are just so mid without the sauce. They're like barely crispy, but the bucket was heavy. I usually get the bone-in chicken because the tenders aren't quite as juicy, but the 11 herbs and spices still add a lot of flavor, and the gravy covers a world of hurt. And of course, you gotta make a chicken biscuit sandwich. You gotta add honey for a little sugary kick, and then the biscuits are so buttery and soft, and you can just mix and match, like go wild. Add mac and cheese, you can add more honey or hot sauce or mashed potatoes. And then honestly, I wasn't hungry again till dinner, and this time I really wanted to just scroll and scroll past all the popular spots, and I literally landed on a birria taco spot, and I randomly picked their quesadilla taco. This little guy was $7 though, like $7 for a taco, but it was pretty fire. The spicy sauce had so much flavor, and it was really tangy, and the birria was really juicy and tender. And they also had birria smash burgers, which had like a crispy smash patty and birria and melty cheese, and then you dip it in the consomme for even more flavor, like the crunchy onions and the soft buttery bun and the savory meat. It was so good. The fries were so crispy too, like beer battered vibes, and the burger sauce was super creamy. And that's all for today. Eating Vietnamese food for a full day. This first spot had pho short rib grilled cheese, and it came with pho broth to dip in, and the bread was so crispy crunchy, and the cheese was so melty, and I had these yummy caramelized onions and so much tender juicy melt in your mouth short rib. Like this is what my dreams are made of. I also tried these Vietnamese dumplings that are wrapped in banana leaves. They're called bun bok lok, I think that's how you pronounce it, and they're made with this like really tender kind of bouncy tapioca and filled with shrimp and pork, and I added this chili sauce that was spicy. I also tried their stir-fried pho, which I've never had before, but the flavors were insane, like so salty, savory, with these like slightly bitter greens and juicy mushrooms and crunchy scallions. And this next restaurant is supposed to be like the best Vietnamese food in New York City, and I had to get their dai ya, which are these super crispy rolls filled with pork, and the wrapping is so thin and crunchy. It's like deep fried heaven. I also got their bun cha, so you put the rice noodles in the lettuce, and then you add some pork from the broth, and then you dip the wrap in the broth and like the crunchy lettuce with the soft noodles and the juicy meat. It's so good. And finally, what I was most excited for, the bun chung. So they're these super crispy deep fried rice cakes with ground mung beans and pork filling, and then you dip them in soy sauce, and it's like an explosion of salty, savory flavor, and it's like soft on the inside and then crunchy on the outside. And that's all for today.